Hello again, all my comic collecting friends. It's Matt, Comic Order 410, here to do a video of some signed books I got recently and some independent or off-brand publisher books I got from the 80s. Got them very cheap. So to get started here, my friend Captain Cummings messaged me a while ago and said he was going to Planet Comic Con and he offered to get some books signed for me, and I thought that was really nice of you, Phil, and I definitely appreciate it. So I sent him out my Rocket Raccoon #1. He got it signed by Scotty Young, and I think Scotty Young's doing an amazing job on this book. This book's been, at a time when I'm pulling less Marvel comics than I ever have in my life that I can remember, Rocket Raccoon surprised me. He stays true, Scotty Young stays true to, the crass, vulgar, and violent roots of the character, but the book's funny, it's different, and the hardest thing to do that I think he pulls off is he keeps it funny and appealing and interesting for both adults and kids, and that's not an easy thing to do. Great series in my opinion. Phil also took my Hellraiser #5 Tim Bradstreet variant and got it signed by Tim Bradstreet for me. So Phil, I really appreciate you doing that. That was nice of you to offer. I don't have books signed by either of these guys, so I really appreciate that. If you haven't subscribed to Captain Cummings, there'll be a link down below. Please go give him a sub. Next up, local shop had an Ethan Van Sciver signing for Convergence Zero, and I wasn't even going to buy the Convergence books, but since the shop's getting him and I'm getting my book signed, I'm obviously going to spend some money. I bought some other books there too, but they did this for Convergence, so I look at it kind of as my fee to get my book signed, because I got like 6 books signed. But Ethan Van Sciver was very nice. He had his kid with him. He was a teenager. He was very nice too. Very cool, down-to-earth guy, and he signed my Convergence Zero. Beautiful cover here by Van Sciver, but honestly, the story, when you all read it, it's a $4.99 price tag, and I feel like it's a normal-sized story, and we just paid for the extra fluff pages that basically tell about all the different DC universes that you most likely already know all about, and it's basically a long ad for the Convergence series, but whatever. I bought it, and it is a beautiful cover, and he was nice enough to sign all the rest of my books. He signed my new X-Men 146, Planet X Part 1, with this gorgeous Zorn cover he did. Signed my Batman #1 1 in 25 variant from New 52. Beautiful cover. Signed my Blackest Night #1 1 in 25 variant. Another stunner. He is a fantastic artist. Signed my Blackest Night #3 1 in 25 variant. And my Flash Rebirth #1 1 in 25 variant. Very nice guy. He said, "Thank you for buying my books and supporting my work." I'm like, are you kidding me? Thank you for doing all these amazing covers. So, really cool experience. Nice guy. My shop that I've been getting my pull list from for, since the late 90s, they take great care of me, and they bought a collection. They know I like signed comics, and they had all these stack of signed books here that somebody got signed at convention, no COAs, so they act like they can't charge more for them when there's no COA, but they know I like them, and they said, hey, you want these? Give us $50-$60 for the whole stack, and I looked them over, and I've met a lot of these artists, and I could tell the good majority of the signatures were legit, because they're people I'd met, so I bought them. This was one book, Superman Man of Steel #19, signed by Louise Simonson. X Factor #10, signed by Louise Simonson. It's a good one here. I already have this book, but this is Swamp Thing #53, signed by John Toddleben. Beautiful cover there. And this book here is the one that sealed the deal for me paying that much, because I needed to upgrade this copy. I met Mike Zeck this past year, and I didn't get this book, the copy I had, signed because it was probably like a very fine, and I wanted to get a better copy. So I just waited, because Zeck was charging $5 per signature and $25 for CGC witness. So when I saw this near mint copy of Captain America Annual 8 already signed. I jumped on it, and that is a near mint copy for sure. Got a Cult number 2 signed by Jim Starlin. Cosmic Odyssey number 1 signed by Jim Starlin. Cosmic Odyssey number 2 signed by Jim Starlin. I'm sorry, that was book 4 I showed first. My fault. I had them out of order. And this is Cosmic Odyssey number 1 signed by Jim Starlin. So it's missing issue 3. But I already have 1 through 4 of this. So if he comes back to Baltimore, I'll get my 3 signed and I'll have a set now. These guys I haven't met, so if they're not real, you know, I'm assuming all the other ones were, so these were, but if they're not real, oh well. Green Lantern 54, signed by Ron Mars. And Daredevil End of Days, number 1, signed by David Mack. So I think that Captain America Annual 8 and the Batman 1 in 25 variant are probably going to go to CBCS for signature authentication at some point. My same shop, keep in mind, you know, this is a deal that I don't find normally, and it's something you would think you'd find at like a yard sale or something, but my shop took all these, you know, these books. They know I like these off publishers from the 80s, like Fanagore, Pacific, Eclipse, Comico. And he had this box of books from the collection he bought, and he's like, they're all going to go in like the 25-cent or dollar bins. He's like, do you want these? And I only looked through like 5 books. I was like, how much you want for these? He's like, just give me 5 for the whole box. It was like 75 or 76 comics, so I didn't even look at the rest. I just bought them. And it was kind of cool going home, being surprised, because there was a lot of books I wanted in here. And like a couple friends told me, they're like, 75 comics for $5, you know, you don't even really need to look through them at that point. And I was lucky because the vast majority were in near mint. There's only about 5 or 6 books that weren't in Very Fine Plus near mint. So let's get started. Like I said, it's all 80s indie or off-brand publisher oddball stuff. None of it too valuable, but some of it hard to find, and a lot of it is stuff I collected. So I think I made out because they're less than 10 cents a book. Anyway, these 2 books were definitely on my Richard Corbin want list because I'm a huge fan of his. Fanagore Press, Children of Fire, number 1, with a beautiful Corbin cover. And this one I really wanted, Richard Corbin and Bruce Jones, Rip in Time, number 1. Another gorgeous cover here by Richard Corbin. And, yeah, there was definitely, I would have paid $5 for 4 or 5 of these books I wanted, so they took great care of me, and that's why I always go there. Anyhow, Eclipse Halloween Horror number 1. Total Eclipse Book 1, this is a prestige format with a Bill Sienkiewicz cover. Total Eclipse, the Seraphim Objective number 1. Very happy to get this. This was another one on my wanted list. Eclipse Comics, Power Comics, number 1 from Dave Gibbons and Brian Boland. And just love this Brian Boland cover. He always does great cover work. So that was great because that was another one. You know, there was a lot of books on my wanted list. Not even showing all the books here because I didn't want to. Probably already going to take a lot of time. But Eclipse Scout Warshaman, number 1 with this beautiful Tim Truman cover. This is a double for me, but this is a great series. I know Scott X1307 is a big fan of Scout, too. Eclipse Air Fighters Classics, number 1. It's a reprint, but this is a prestige format, oversized, old Airboy stuff. Eclipse Comics Skywolf, number 1. Tom Lyle cover here. Early stuff from him. Quality Comics Slain the Berserker. Another one I didn't have that I wanted. This is issue number 1. Another one I did not have that I needed. Carlos Ezquerra's Strontium Dog number 1 from Quality Comics. I have a lot of his Judge Dredd stuff, but I didn't have this. Another one that was on my wanted list. This is Appleseed. I thought it was number 1, it was actually number 2 when I looked, but like I said, I didn't look through there too carefully. I looked through a handful of books. As soon as he said $5, I was like, done. Move on to the next stuff I wanted. So, but yeah, Appleseed, book 1, issue number 2. Big fan of that series. And those books were expensive when they came out. So was this. This was another one I wanted to get. And this is prestige format, but it's so oversized. It's like a trade paperback. This is Gray #1 from Viz Comics. And this was also hot when it came out. Forward by Harlan Ellison. And you can see how thick this is. It's a trade paperback, basically. Didn't know anything about this, but it looks cool. Can't wait to read it. Samurai Son of Death, #1, and again, prestige format. And what's crazy is a lot of the stuff in this box were #1 issues. Anything Goes #1 has Gil Kane cover, Doc Savage. It has Flaming Carrot in there. Arion and Bluebeard by P. Craig Russell. Sorry, this is Eclipse Comics, and again, another prestige format book. Gonad the Barbarian #1. Madman on the cover there. Eclipse Comics Hand of Fate #1. Not sure who did this cover. Gonna have to look that up, but yeah, most of these are in excellent condition. Rudyard Kipling's Red Dog #1, adapted by P. Craig Russell. This one looks really interesting. Want to read this. Eclipse Comics The Prowler and White Zombie #1. So I guess he's going into the Bela Lugosi film, and can't wait to read that, actually. Eclipse Comics The Mundane Adventures of Dishman #1. And now we're getting into continuity comics, which I was a big fan of continuity comics when I was a kid. It was a company that Neil Adams, I guess he co-founded or helped start it up, but he did a lot of the covers and art, and there was a lot of other talented guys working there too, but they didn't last too long, but I thought their comics, some of them were pretty good. They definitely had a high quality in terms of the production and the art quality and the cover and paper stock. It wasn't your standard indie books. They were pretty high quality, but got a lot of continuity stuff. This is Armor #1 with a Neil Adams cover. #2, where they introduced the Silver Streak, who's his brother. Comes like his partner. Art Adams cover on these. And Armor #3. I think #4 was also in there as well. Yep, there it is. #4. Also Neil Adams on that cover there. Pacific Comics Miss Mystic #1. This one's kind of roughed up, but again, Neil Adams here on the cover, and I believe you can see this is the continuity one. Same exact cover by Neil Adams, slightly colored differently, but I think the Pacific one obviously came first. But here's Continuity Comics Miss Mystic #1. #2, Neil Adams covers on these as well. Megalith #1, and this is Mark Teixeira cover, inked by Neil. This is #1 of his series. Was very happy to get this too. Eclipse Comics Mr. Monsters Horror, High Octane Horror #1. So it's Mr. Monsters Super Duper Special #2, I guess the alternate title to that. That was mixed in, but here's more continuity stuff. Toy Boy #1 wasn't in there, but here's #2. Neil Adams covers on these as well. Toy Boy #3. Earth 4 #2. And Trevor Von Eden cover inked by Neil. The Zero Patrol #2. Thought #1 was in there. Maybe I didn't pull it out. But Zero Patrol #2. Neil Adams on that. Zero Patrol #3. Also Neil. Oh, there's #1. I did have it. They're out of order, but there's Zero Patrol #1. Of course, also Neil. He did, might have done all the covers, except, it looks like even the ones he didn't do, he inked for Continuity Comics. But this is Revengers #3, starring Armor, Silver Streak, and Megalith. And, oh, wow, look at that. Another Armor #4. Didn't mean to grab that. Looks like I have direct and a newsstand. And I bet newsstands of these books aren't easy to find. They didn't last very long. Another continuity series based off a toy from the 80s, Captain Power and the Soldiers of the Future, #1. Neil on that. It's a newsstand. Another Neil cover to #2. These were really interesting. I'd never heard of these. They were in there. This is Evolution Comics, and don't know who they were in with or who they were related to, but you don't hear of any of the people who worked on the interiors of these books, but the covers are by legend after legend. This is New Frontiers, #1, featuring Action Master and Green Host and Lotus. But you can see the names down there, and you don't really recognize any of them, except for Kurt Swan, who did this cover. #2 is an extremely early cover from Adam Hughes here. Looks like it's inked by Carl Kerschel. Very cool. I didn't even know about that Adam Hughes cover or these books. This is Dangerous Times #1, also from Evolution Comics, featuring Belagian Days, I guess I pronounced that right, and Vidorix the Druid. But this cover's by Mike Kaluta. Dangerous Times #2. This cover's by Murphy Anderson. Unreal. Dangerous Times #3. This cover's by Marshall Rogers. Dangerous Times #4. This cover's by George Perez. They must either had money in their pockets or been seriously connected in the comic world. So, and here's Dangerous Times #5, and this cover's by Walter Simonson. So, like I said, pretty much legend after legend on these odd indie covers. I thought that was very cool. Next up, Prelude Graphics, The Survivors #1 from 1986. You know, a lot of times when I see these odd books that I've never heard of and never seen, I know they're not worth anything, but I just pick them up if they're like in a dollar bin, just because you don't know if you'll see them again. Elite Comics, The Twilight Avenger #1. Aced Comics, The Photon Effect #1. Really low budget production on this one. Like this cover here. Jet City Comics, The Shadow Lord #1. Actually really dig that cover. Triumphant Comics, Unleash #1. And it's numbered, I guess. I don't know if it's signed inside, but 4,812 of 28,000 copies. Team Yankee from First Comics. This is issue 1 from 1989. A couple issues of that were in there. Eclipse Comics, Xanadu Color Special #1. That's an oversized. It's not prestige format, but it's oversized. Eternity Comics, The Verdict #1 with Howard Chaykin cover. And really happy to find this. Dark Horse isn't so much indie, but it's a very early Dark Horse book by a sci-fi artist that I love, Basil Wolverton's Planets of Terror. And just a gorgeous Wolverton cover here. He's a true master. Hero Comics, The Champions #1. XYR, Jim Mooney and Ninja High School's Ben Dunn worked on this one. Not familiar with this at all. Wonder Comics, The Night Brigade #1. Vanguard Graphics, The Hero Project #1. Again, very low budget, kind of homemade, self-published looking. But like I said, you know, there's a lot of stuff a lot of people don't care about, but you know, and certainly most of it's not worth anything, but I always pick up this stuff when you see it, because you don't know if you'll see it again. A lot of it could be crap, but like I said, for less than 10 cents a book, I'll even buy crap sometimes. Millennium Comics, Heartstopper #1. Arrow Comics, Legend Lore, Tales from the Realm. Pretty cool cover there. Bold Ink Graphics, Red Raven, Lore of the Time Before, #1. And last here, no, it looks like it might be Eternity. Eternity Comics, but this is Retrograde #1. So, yeah, Like I said, I have a kind of off taste and know a lot of people aren't interested in any of those books, but it's all stuff I collected but didn't expect to pay much for when I found it, and I was glad to get it that cheap, and definitely appreciate you all sitting through that. So thank you all for your time. I always appreciate you stopping by. Everyone take care of yourselves, take care of each other, and enjoy your comic reading.